You don't compete with a force. You just get out the way. Your power's begging you to play. Begging you to play. Begging you to play.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Am a Lot. I am your host, Amma Swiger, and today I am bringing you Brianna Michelle. She is an absolute icon. She is stunning, and she's somebody that I've had the pleasure of knowing almost as long as I have been in the coaching bubble, and I just know that our conversation is going to be absolutely everything. Let me tell you a little bit about Brianna, and then I'm gonna let us get right to it. Brianna Michelle is the creator of the $1 Million Story Method and the founder of the Star Power Movement. She helps establish female entrepreneurs turn their lived experiences, standards, and convictions into premium positioning that makes them the obvious choice for high-ticket clients. Her work has helped clients scale from five-figure months to multiple six figures by building businesses that truly reflect the depth and value of their work. And I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for being on the podcast, Brianna.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
I was like, when I knew I was finally going to bring back a podcast, I was like, okay, who are the first 12 people I want to have on here? And you were a duh to me. Every time we've done photo shoots together, I just love I almost love the conversations as much as I love shooting you. So I was like, I have to have you on here.
I know it's just so easy. We just vibe so well together. I think that's like a Pisces thing or something.
It's gotta be, because you're the only other Pisces that I don't genuinely dislike. A lot of times when I meet a Pisces, I'm like, I don't, they're very not responsible and soft.
Yeah.
And you and I are savage, but also we like pretty things.
Yes. Always the pretty things.
So I wanted to talk about the fact that you and I both have had different iterations. You started as a makeup artist, and I want the people on the podcast to, what was your life before all of the amazing things you're doing now? Tell us, where did you start your entrepreneurial journey?
Gosh. Well, it's really interesting. A lot of people don't know, but I actually started in corporate. I have a background in broadcast journalism, and I worked in media and radio and television for 6.5 years. I thought I was going to be a newscaster, and worked for Harpo Productions, the Oprah Winfrey Show, for a good hot minute, and realized this was not what I wanted it to be, right? I felt my creativity being really stifled. And I remember walking past a store window in Macy's, and I saw all these girls having so much fun doing makeup. And I was like, I'm just going to go do that. I'm that just looks like fun. I just want to have fun in my business,
Yes.
and doing what I love. And I started my career in makeup within 6 months. I was like, I'm going to start my own business, and my clients were wanting me to do makeup for their weddings. And then my career really took off in bridal beauty. And, I started my first business as a bridal hair and makeup artist, grew a team, transported my business from Chicago to Las Vegas, where my business really took off in Las Vegas because it's #1 wedding capital, and ran that business for many, many years. And, before I pivoted into coaching.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember way back when you and I first connected, realizing that you had been from the wedding world. And I feel like those of us who have the same trauma of the wedding industry.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's an understanding that we have. It's the best work in the world. Weddings are joyful and they're a lot of fun, but it's also it's exhausting to do. You're starting over all the time with brand new clients. And I got really burnt out with that. That was definitely one of the reasons why I was I want something else. Was that a reason for you too?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely a beast of its own. Working in the wedding industry, it's totally different. But yeah, after a while, you just get burned out. And I think that people don't realize how physical it is, how physical and mental it is, because it's someone's most important day of their life. So you have the physicalness of the tension of like, oh, everything has to like be a certain
Mhm.
way, you
Mhm.
know, the perfectionism aspect.
Yep.
Then you also have the mental aspect of like having to really solve lots of problems very fast if problems
Yep.
arise, and there's a lot of pressure. And that pressure is taxing. Like I feel like you can only take it for so long.
Yeah, I still can't believe I made it through over 900 weddings, and
That is crazy.
I jokingly said I was like I quit before I got to 1,000 because I was like that felt like too many, but it's a lot, and it's beautiful and joyful, but it is somebody's really important day, and you're constantly starting over with new clients. And I guess maybe same is true with hair and makeup, that like sure those people could rehire you for other things, maybe another event down the line, or for me it would be like when they would have children, but it was just I constantly felt like I was starting over every year. And I know for me, I like the idea of coaching where it's like, obviously there's still some starting over. We're constantly maybe bringing in new people into our worlds, but it's not the constant rat race of every weekend, every day having a new person in front of you. It's you're getting to be involved in people's lives in a longer term thing. And that really attracted me to like the coaching world.
Yeah, I didn't really look at it that way, but yes, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
It's it's building something so much more long term.
one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, because again, you're one of the few people I know that I feel like has pivoted from the similar career, and also to me, there's a similarity in from what you used to do to what you do now, in that I feel like before you were helping people make them look a certain way. And now I think your work is a lot around making people position themselves a certain way. And do you see the skill sets that you had from being a hair and makeup artist? Do you see ways in which they've translated over into what you do now?
Oh, it's 100%. You knew I was gonna say it's a
You up.
hundred percent. It's so funny. I was just having this conversation with one of my business besties, and I was like, I just realized I'm doing the same thing.
I just had the same realization like 2 weeks ago.
Was like, wait, I'm like, that's why I can position people so well because you can see exactly where people's gaps are in their
Yep.
business, just how I can see where people's gaps were with the way their makeup looked, in the way that makeup shaped their face
Yep.
and transformed their eyes. And it's the same thing.
It's so funny to me. Like whenever I've worked with clients who, especially in my work now, where maybe they had one hair and makeup person for one shoot and then a different one for someone else, and it's like people are like, why do I like those photos more than these other photos? Because you took both of them, and I'm like, I hate to say it, but you like that version of makeup better because it's like some person might really carve your cheekbones and do a lot of blush, and a person might do another minimal blush, and it's like you really can change the way people perceive you, the way you perceive yourself, just by putting different shit on your face. And it's really not that different from business.
No, no, it's not.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's so crazy.
Yeah, I was like, I wondered if you had felt the same sort of like the carryover between the two. Because to me, it's just, I also feel like there's a skill set you learn when your job is being in front of people. Like you and I have spent a lot of time in our previous careers physically in front of somebody. And I actually think it makes us a lot better at communicating, of being able to read people, which ultimately makes you better at coaching people. Do you see it that way too?
Yeah, that's really interesting too, because you're 100% right. Because you don't, it's really funny because for a long time, I was like, I know I do something so much deeper than like what everybody else is doing. And I could never freaking pinpoint it until quite recently. And it really did dawn on me that, yeah, it's because I came from this wedding industry and everything had to be a certain way. It was like, you cannot F up an email. You cannot F up the day of someone's wedding. You cannot even F up a preview session, a trial. Like you
Yep.
can't because of the that it's just like someone's most important day of their life. And that 100% translates into how you communicate with your clients, how you lead your clients, how you handle certain situations with your clients, what your client experience is, how your transformation, how your frameworks are even actually laid out for your clients.
Yep. Yep.
And there's a certain level of excellence that I really, really value
Yep.
that being in the wedding industry gave me, because I see now how it all transfers into how I coach and lead my clients.
Yeah. Because it's like so many of these people, who are not necessarily bad people, but they've never experienced having to run a business where like you have a person in front of you. It's a lot easier to hide behind my cell phone and to like be like, oh, I'm gonna wait 6 hours to respond to that message that kind of irritated me when you're in, you know, that's easy. It's a lot harder when you have somebody 6 inches from your face or 6 feet from you where like they are actively looking for you to respond to them in that moment. And like you're forged by fire, I feel like when you've come from a world, whether it's you were a server before or you were in corporate, like if you've done work in any kind of leadership position where you actually have to be in front of people, you are such a better coach in an online kind of forum, I think.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. Your expectations are higher. You learn
Yes.
how to raise your expectations, like working in that industry. And I would probably say any hospitality
Yeah.
style industry. And therefore, your expectations are raised. And that reflects in how you coach your clients.
Yeah, I've always said I think that the world would be a better place if every human being was forced to be a server for like 3 months and then to work in some form of like hospitality, whether it's weddings or a hotel or whatever, a golf course, something. Because you get an appreciation for people that I don't know if the general public often has.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true.
So, what made you want to leave the beauty world? You obviously were very successful. So, what made you
Yeah.
say you were done?
I got to a point where I plateaued and I knew I was at a crossroads. I had a team of 9 at that point. So it was either I continue growing the team and have more volume in that business, or I pivot into education. And education was just like the natural next step of like a beauty entrepreneur. And I saw a lot of people doing these courses and things online. And I was like, oh, passive income, let me sell a course. Like, yeah, like let's do it. Having no idea what I was getting myself into.
As we
And I
often
just
don't.
and I just decided like that was gonna be the route. I always loved education. I
Mm.
always valued education. I always loved learning. I'm obsessed with learning. And, it was just like the natural next step, but it was actually really difficult for me to leave, and
Yeah.
and make that pivot.
Yeah. I definitely struggled with because I think it's anytime you have a pivot, choosing a different identity for yourself is because it's ultimately what it is. It's like I had this thing that worked really well before, but I know that I could do something else. And I think that it's more mindset than anything else.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it was really holding me back from scaling even, my coaching business. I was like tapping into helping and serving these like amazing women like grow their own businesses. And I was seeing like the impact
Mm.
felt so much more near and dear to my heart. And but I got to the point where I couldn't keep double dipping
Yep.
because it was like one foot was in the old identity, the other foot was in the new identity. And I would tell myself, no, 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 you can do both. I mean, I had whole conversations with myself around that. Oh, you can do both. You can do double dip, but you can't. You really, truly can't. When the old business was formed from the old identity. And
Yeah.
I think that's the key is like, yes, you can have multiple businesses. You can have all kinds of multiple businesses, but it's different when that business actually gets built from a different version of you versus like the version of you that you are now.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Because I think that's where it's like people are like, I want to do this and this. And it's like, okay, but what's the underneath thing? If part of that is from an old identity, like you're making decisions around what you want to do now, from old beliefs you have, old ways you see yourself, what you see as being possible, then you're constantly still having that one foot in, one foot out. And it's like you've got to either decide to go, or you're gonna eventually be doing the splits, and the splits are not comfortable. Like,
No, and I think when it all comes down to it, I think with most people, it always comes down to money.
yep,
And, it's my scarcity was like, oh my God, like if I leave this business, I'm leaving all this money on the table.
yep,
And you know what you've built, it runs like clockwork, it's secure income. And then you've got this business that's like kind of just starting, like you can see its potential, like it's making money. But you're like, okay, that doesn't feel as secure,
yep,
right? And so the flip is to create your own certainty, like within the uncertainty.
yep. Yep. And I think that's where, unfortunately, the industry sometimes sells things as like, all you have to do is this shiny little, this framework. All you need to do is like follow my 5-step thing. And it's like, you actually, the best coaching that you can get is to help you to build that certainty, to help you build the proof, to help you create those results for yourself and for the people that you're already working with. And then that will explode rather than just being like, let me chase whatever's popular at the moment, because you can make money doing stuff that way, but it's exhausting. It's
Oh,
exhausting.
yeah, because you're running your drive is actually coming from not a whole place, right? From like this place of I need this because of the money, not
Yep.
because this is what I truly love and want to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. It and our lives are so much better when we build things from things we actually want to do. I really want to spend some time talking about about gaps in perception, because it feels like the lovely little marrying point of your world and my world. I feel like you have spent a lot of what your brand has become around perception and the gaps that are there. And I feel like what I do is around the gaps. I used to kind of position this as like the gaps that people have around you. And I don't see it that way anymore. I actually think that was some industry bullshit that I wish I could go back in time and unlearn faster. But to me, it's actually, I think it's the gaps in our own perception. I actually think a lot of, which I feel like you and I share a lot of similar thoughts on this. So I know, let me pull up my notes here. I know that you have talked a lot about like the lack of perception of value that's holding back business owners in your content. For people that are hearing us talk about that, can you kind of give them a primer on your thought process on that?
Yeah. My thought process on like the gaps.
Yeah, like when you talk about the gaps like the in people's perception, like why do you think perception matters? What are people missing about it? All of
Yeah, I think I agree with you that it starts with your own like self-perception, like how you actually perceive yourself, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think it it really translates back to self-ownership and congruence. And what I mean by that is, I've been very open and talking about how I was like undercharging so much. Like I was undercharging for my packages for so long, right? Couldn't get people in the door to sell my mastermind worth anything. And how I kind of flipped that narrative. And now, my mastermind is full and and my private coaching spaces sell really well now. And all of that really stemmed from, seeing myself and taking self-ownership of my stories, my experiences, and really seeing how those stories and experiences made me the woman that I am today. And I think so many times people start their businesses on tactics, hustle, strategy, perfectionism, and then they get to a point in their business where they've had success, but they're plateauing. Something's not right because they built their business from tactics and things outside of them, and they didn't build their business on who they actually are. And it all starts with, and then they wonder why, okay, how do I embody more? How do I be more of an authority? How do I be more convicted in my content?
Yep.
And conviction comes from self-ownership. Conviction comes from being able to not just see yourself. It's not about just seeing yourself. It's about taking your stories and experiences and translating those into what you do and your gifts. And, everything like, yes, I help people position themselves and like see their value and position themselves to be the obvious choice, right? But all that comes from my experiences from when I was 14, 16, 23, like all these different experiences in my life, it comes from those.
Yep.
And knowing how to translate those like into your work and what you do, that's what deepens your conviction.
Yep.
That's what creates the self-ownership that makes you undeniable amongst everybody else.
Yep. I think it's also where we've kind of gotten obsessed with this idea of like positioning and messaging. And I know you and I have probably spent similar amounts of money on positioning courses and coaching and blah. I just sometimes want to shake past versions of myself. But I also am grateful for it because I feel like it has helped me see that yes, messaging matters. Yes, of course, there's ways to position yourself, but ultimately, like the way you create perception is by repetition and by that conviction that you're talking about. And I think that so often people are like, well, if I just say the right thing, then that's conviction. And it's like, no, that's actually the opposite of conviction. You know, it's that's not what it's about. And I love that you have spent so much of your brand talking about how the stories that we have are like one of our highest, most valuable things that we have. And I think so often entrepreneurs of any variety are so scared to talk about their stories because they think that like, oh, if I talk about the fact that I was broke, or if I talk about the fact that I, made an investment that wasn't great, or I did this thing that I regret, that will lower people's perception of them. And in a world where like AI is writing so many people's content nowadays, like, no, we actually want to hear people's stories. I actually want to know that you've lived something because if you're going to walk me through building a business and whatever that's going to entail, I want to know that you actually have something to teach me. And I think that you've done such a beautiful job showing people how to talk about their stories.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's been a 2-year self-development journey. And to your point of saying, yeah, I mean, I was one of those coaches who bought into the just shift your messaging. Here's your messaging template. Say these words and you're gonna have like $100,000 a month. Like, hello, that was me. I did that.
Same girly, we have the same t-shirt.
I did that. But you know what? You're right because I'm grateful for that experience because I wouldn't have the duality
Yeah.
of being even a better leader now because I can immediately pinpoint like when someone is out of congruence and the conviction it's fake conviction and not conviction from your lived experiences.
And like our lived experiences are what make people fall in love with us. Like, I remember one of the conversations we had at your last photo shoot was like around the like, we were just talking about how, girly things are perceived as being less high quality, not high quality, like that it's like, oh, we want to see power suits and,
Not
mean
as
expression.
serious.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not, yeah, if you're more serious, then people will perceive you as being a higher quality brand. And like, it's horseshit. Like, it's not true. And I would actually argue that like the more people try to like do this thing that they think is the right thing when it's not actually who you are is the fastest way to either a plateau or no business at all. And it's like, I love my clients because so many of y'all, if I put you in a room, you're a diverse group of people. And like, none of y'all are the same. And I feel like your clients are a pretty diverse group of people. And that's why they're successful is because there's something about them that people are like, oh, I like that about her. Like, you wear that shade of lipstick all the dang time. That's cool to me. Like it makes it like, oh, I think of you when I see somebody wearing hot pink lipstick. That's just, I now associate with you that with your brand. And I think that people are so afraid to have any form of personality, which is
yeah.
really any form of conviction. And it's like, What are we doing?
I think you're starting to see it now too. I think you're going to see it more and more and more as people are realizing that it's, I like to call, I'm going to go a little woo here, but
Love
it's,
it.
we're doing business in the 5D now. We're no longer doing business in the 3D. And 3D was all about here's the template. Here's how you be professional. Here's how you make sales. Here's this cookie cutter little box. Let me put you in a box. And then you can say all the right things and be all the right robots. And now we're in 5D, which is a authenticity, individual, more freedom of expression uh, timeline that we're on. And I think as time goes by, like yes, you're going to see more and more people embracing that. But I think right now people are just navigating. Okay, like I know that I've outgrown my business. I know that I'm in a season of evolution. What does that actually look like for me? And I think a lot of people are trying to figure this out and figure out like, okay, how do I want to show up
Yep.
online? How do I want to, not who I think I have to be in order to be successful, but like who, who am I, And I think a lot of people are navigating that. And I think it's a really beautiful place. Um, and it's what I help a lot of my clients navigate, and it all traces back to we start with story, right? It all goes back to that.
I was going to say one of the other things that relating to story that I wanted to talk about is you are, if anybody is watching some part of this is the video, you can see behind you have Chanel and Vogue and Louis Vuitton and Coco Chanel, and like obviously the fashion world has influenced you as a person. I know you love a Chanel anything. You have the best freaking style. Where do you see high-end brands like Chanel using story? Do you see the crossover between that?
So it's so funny. I just did a video. I just did a video that is going to get posted regarding talking about this bag.
She's holding up a big Chanel bag for
Yeah,
those of you listening.
because people don't like the reason why people can charge. Yes, fashion is a huge influence, but not for like what you think, right? It's the reason why people can pay. Like some people, yes, they buy into Chanel because of the status or whatever. But the connoisseurs and the people who really value quality and perception, they know that they're not just buying a bag. They're buying the story, they're buying the heritage, they're buying the craftsmanship, they're buying the fact that Coco Chanel was this female entrepreneur and she was building a business in a men's world where it was like forbidden that, my God, like it's forbidden that a woman actually runs her own business and like makes her own money and has like her thoughts and ideas.
Yep.
And they're buying her story. And most importantly, they're buying her movement. And so much of this has everything to do with like how you actually position yourself in business.
Yep.
And so yes, fashion has always been a huge influence of me. Like obviously the quality is always it's a standard, but it's about the history. It's about the entrepreneurship and the leadership and the movement that goes behind them forming these brands,
Yep. When we went to Paris last year, one of my like things I really wanted to do is like I'm not a big handbag girly. I like to look at them, but I don't really own any because I'm just not really that kind of girl. If anything, you'll see me in a fanny pack most days because that's what I wear when I shoot. But like I wanted to go to the Dior Museum because when I think about what has influenced me, it is the black and white like Dior specific style photos.
As you're wearing a houndstooth checkered top, black and white. Yeah.
And white is not, I am very aware that this is not in my color palette. Like, but there's something about that black and white, the high fashion of like old, like 1960s, 1970s, like just the black and white photos from Dior. And, we're walking through and like, Jordan's with me, my friend Helena's with us. And they're both kind of like into the clothes and like the accessories and like looking at all the different stuff. And what I'm just taken aback by is the photos. I was like, it's not so much the clothing and the details for me, but it was the stories that those imagery and the way in which fashion has influenced the way it's photojournalism. It has changed the way, it has
Yes.
changed so many different industries. And I was like standing there looking at all this display of all these beautiful images. And I was like, it is really funny that I had never thought about it this way, but I was like, the way I edit my black and whites look just like that. Even though I wasn't influenced enough to want to buy Dior, I am still deeply influenced by Dior. And I was like, how many ways does this show up in all of our lives in so many different iterations that we're influenced by different things. And oftentimes it's the stories that people tell that make us fall in love with them or a brand or whatever it is. And yet we're like, oh, yeah, no, I just buy that brand because I like it. It's like, sure, but there's probably something underneath it that made you actually resonate with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't even think of that though. But yeah, the photography tells a story.
Yep. Like I don't resonate as much with like the Chanel vibe because it's a
Right.
lot more, but it's like even looking at different photographers or different fashion houses, there's so many different ways that we're influenced as people. And I think one of my personal gripes with the coaching industry on the whole is that I feel like they've lost the context that a lot of like brick and mortar businesses have. Like if you go to, a business conference for candle makers, they're going to talk about business way different than we business coaches and, that kind of world talks about things. And sometimes I'm like, I think we've lost the plot a little bit. Um, Not you and I, but
Yeah.
I think there are a lot
Oh
of people that
no,
have.
it's just it's so regurgitated. It
Yeah.
really truly is regurgitated. And I really try hard not to that is always my like long-term vision is like how can I grow my brand and continue to be different,
Yeah.
you know?
And how can you continue to bring in your own lived experience? Because I'm sure there are tons of women who like look at somebody like you and it's like, I want exactly what you have. And, we don't have that oftentimes that perception of ourselves of like that there are people that, look up to us and be like, you're the standard, not somebody else that's famous. It's like, you're the standard of the thing I want. It's like, wow, all I need to do is share my story more and people can resonate with that, which is ultimately why I was like, I need a podcast because I had a podcast, but I'm like, I have all these incredible clients and I'm like, I want to put you all in a room together. And since I can't do that, I'll bring you on a podcast and talk about.
My gosh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I almost feel like I'm gonna go off on a limb and say this wild hair. But like I almost feel like what is really needed is someone who can extract, who can like go into like deep and this is work I can do a little bit of this, but I would not call myself an expert on this. But like someone who can like really do really good identity work and be able to translate that like into a brand, but not just a brand,
Yep.
into something that's felt like a curation, an experience. And there's
But I feel like you've done this. Like to me, when I look at your brand, there's a lived aspect of like you travel. We before we started
yeah,
recording, we were talking about how you went on this like massive European freaking cross the ocean adventure. Like there
yeah,
is this lived nature to what you do where it's not just these like pretty posed photos. Of course, there's some of that. Like I name me a brand who's not going to have in some version of a portrait, but there's so many different ways in which somebody could land on your page and see themselves in a version of that world of like, I want to travel the world with my husband. I
yeah,
want to be able to have the freedom to be able to get paid from a boat. Like, there's so many different ways in which people can insert themselves and their version of what you've created for yourself. And I think oftentimes people, when it comes to like branding, are like, how can I portray authority? And I'm like, boring.
no, like your authority.
I hate it. It's so gross to me. I'm like, I have a client who I'm going to travel for next week who was like, can we do a photo shoot where it feels like I'm dream like that feeling of falling asleep, of like dreaming? And like, this is a woman who's an 8-figure business owner. We're going to literally film her falling asleep in a Whole Foods aisle. Like, that is part of her vision for this. That is the most absolutely absurd fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire
I
life.
love that.
But it speaks to a feeling of, she's like, I feel like my life is where I'm constantly dreaming and falling deeper into a dream. And like, that is exactly what I want. And I'm like, it's not what I want for me personally, but like, it's visceral. And I think that we oftentimes are like, let's not do that. Let's just do something that's safe and sanitary in a white studio and a, black blazer. And there's nothing wrong. I love a black blazer, but like, you can have so much more than that when you build a life like you have, where like your actual life is your content.
Yeah, it's so funny when you're so close to it. Like you don't see it, but
Nope.
yeah,
No.
totally,
And I
totally.
think when you scroll social media, what I see is so many people, when they're putting their life on social media, they're doing it from this like, here's me in my baseball cap going for a run. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, there's not, do I want to insert myself? Like, do when I see that, am I like, oh, I want to be her? Maybe, I guess, if you
No.
wanted to be a runner. But like, no, when I see somebody traveling, when I see people going on a date, when I like, somebody recently posted a time lapse of her and her boyfriend or fiance, or I don't think they're married, but it was the two of them. It's just a time lapse of them at dinner, of like them talking, not on their phones, just, and the hook was great. And I was like, it's a simple piece of content. She filmed it on an iPhone. It's not anything fancy. But I was like, how many people would see that and be like, oh, I want a, present dinner date with my partner. I was like, that's brilliant. And I think that
Yeah.
we overcomplicate stuff because it's like, well, what's the fanciest thing that we can create? How can I get attention? It's like you're going to get attention by giving people something that they can aspire to
Yeah.
and want to put themselves inside of. And
It's
I
so
genuinely do feel like you do a great job at that.
Oh, well, thank you. But it takes two. Like you do such a great job at being able to, I think, help help other artists, coaches. I identify as an artist,
You
but
very much are an
I
artist. You,
can
you Pisces, you.
help like you do such a great job of like bringing that out, like you do such a great job of helping curate the experience and the felt moment, and I mean, I've been in the industry for so long. I've worked with so many photographers, and I will say, like, there's never been anybody that does that so well as you. And I really, really, truly like that. It's such a gift because you aren't just creating photography. Like, it is an art. It's an art experience.
Our lives should feel like art. We should feel, it's one of my favorite parts of my, former career of doing boudoir that I feel like has bled its way over. And I'm hoping it continues to kind of become more and more part of what I'm doing now, where when in your life do you get to spend an hour feeling a few hours feeling like the best version of yourself? And I think if more women had more opportunities for that, I think the world would be a better place. I deeply, deeply, you don't have to shake photos in your underwear. That's not my point. I'm saying that like if you actually just had somebody else pour into you and made you feel like the freaking most artistic, beautiful version of yourself, I think the world would be a better place. And also probably women would take less shit.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause it helps them feel their power,
Yep. 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 What are frameworks you see being used, or maybe not frameworks, but like things you see in the industry right now that you wish we could just chuck in a trash can?
Oh my God.
What's frustrating you? Let's
I
be
saw
honest.
one this morning that I clocked, and I was like, okay. I'm like, get out my pen, and I start taking my notes, and I'd be like, okay, this is what I want to say on my next post. Like, I clock something. Um, Here's a framework that really annoys me is that people, coaches, now, mind you, I'm going to create some context here. A lot of times, coaches have not had the experiences that create trauma, depth, conflict, um, and yeah, trauma, depth, and conflict. And so they teach from a very surface level framework.
Yep.
And it's deceiving because if you don't know if you're not understanding that you have depth and trauma and stories, right, that have really shaped your life and your whole life, you can easily get into like a coaching program and do all the things and get zero results.
Yep.
And it has nothing to do with the coach and it has nothing to do with you. There's like no blame.
Yep.
It's just you needed more um you needed I don't want to say even identity work, but it's like you needed more self-perception and self-ownership before you get to someone's program who can literally help you scale from 10K to 50K months.
Right.
And I see a lot of coaches that regurgitate very basic frameworks. Here's how you launch. And here's how you hold your energy when you launch.
Yep.
Like you don't like the reason why you're not making money is because you don't know how to hold your energy when you launch. No, that's bullshit. Like it's not about like that you can't hold the energy. You probably can't hold the energy. It's not about the energy. It's about what's underneath the energy. It's
Yep.
about the fact that you're not convicted in what you're saying and you know that. Your subconscious knows that. So you're not showing up convicted as fuck like in when you're speaking on camera or in your content or when you're doing a live conversion event. And I have such a passion and beef about it because I went through it myself, thinking something was wrong with me. Why can't I get it? Right? Like
Yep.
why aren't I being able to get it as fast as these other people? Right? What
Yep.
am I doing wrong? And it it was binary, but there's just a lot of context and a lot of brilliant women don't know how to recognize that until they're in it and then they're like, oh crap, like I need someone to help me with identity and ownership and conviction and embodiment. Like that has to be cleared out. You have to be in congruence before you even step foot in learning how to launch a program.
I also think it's that some of these people that are, I hate using the word naive, but I feel like it's a good word, where they've had success. They might be, whether it's actually like age wise young or they're just newer to business and they've had skyrocketing results. I could name a dozen of them that just come to mind. I'm sure you know the kinds of people I'm talking about that have had, they're making multi six figures a month. They're over six figures a month. They're haven't been in business for all that long. Maybe it's 2, 3 years. And they're like light years ahead of other people. And it's like, then they're out there spitting out these frameworks. And it's like, sure, what worked for them is probably would work for somebody else that's just like them. Because a lot of times these are people that don't have, like you're saying, trauma. They don't have things that they've experienced. And so it's like, oh, when you haven't really experienced much and you're just going to sit there and it's like, all right, well, you're just going to pump out 12 pieces of content a day and you're going to slather the internet with your opinions and you're just going to kind of talk out your butt constantly, then that will create a success for a certain kind of person. But if you're somebody who has lived, who has experienced things, like you have to know how to integrate that into what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to be faking it and pretending you don't have that stuff like these people don't. Or you're going to get burnt out really quick.
Well, and I think that there comes as a coach, you have to hold a certain level of responsibility. And this is something
Absolutely.
I truly stand for. It's like if someone is not the appropriate fit for my program, I will 100% say this is not like this isn't a good fit for you. Like here, here's what I recommend. And I think that, it's not that, oh, like you're not a good coach because you haven't been through trauma. It's
Right.
binary. It's just as a coach, I think that you need to take personal responsibility of, you know, really making sure that people come into your programs are a right fit.
And I think it's that us as buyers, I have an entire solo podcast episode on this of like, I think critical thinking is a skill set that we have lost as a society. And like, just because somebody has results, like take a minute And we're not talking about demonizing people. We're not saying that they're bad or wrong, but like have some critical thinking. Do you have their life? Do you have a similar lifestyle to them? Do you have similar goals? Like actually being like as us as buyers, like let's have some critical thinking around how that person had success. Like just because they built it that way, do you actually want that business? Like there's a million ways to make $1 million. There's millions of ways to make $1 million. Like if that's the goal, like actually have some critical thinking around, is that what I want? Is that where I'm at in life? Is that, does that align with my values? And I just genuinely, it never ceases to amaze me how critical thinking has become less and less. I think we treat it as like some soft skill that doesn't matter. And I'm like, the women that I see as being really successful, like you're a critical thinker. I'm a critical thinker. Some of my favorite people to listen and learn from are critical thinkers. And we're not afraid to ask tough questions both of ourselves and other people to like understand what is the right next step.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, you have to be. You have to be. And it's, it reminded me something too. It's like, being able to evaluate. I mean, I could go down a whole list of like why I hire this coach over this coach, and a lot of it too isn't necessarily that the coach doesn't have a certain level of expertise. It is lifestyle, you know, or it is that like they never had a business. You know how many coaches that are out there that have never, I call them green. They're green. You can feel that in the conversation.
Yep.
They haven't ran a business before they stepped into coaching. And, you can feel that. And it's not, again, it's binary. You have to just use, like you said, the critical thinking.
Yeah. Because, there are people, you can learn a lot from who maybe
Mhm.
have not run a business before. But I think that sometimes we just are like, we are so distracted by the shiny numbers and not by who people actually are. And I could go on a gazillion
Yeah.
tangents about that.
Gazillion tangents.
I want to talk about a little more specifically. So you have something called your $1 million story method. Can you tell the people what this is? Because I think this is so brilliant.
Okay. Well, the $1 million story method is a method where we extract your stories and create ownership around those that translate into your conviction. And
All the
so,
things we've been talking about.
all the things we've been talking about. So, um, what we do is what I do with my clients is we extract very specific stories and experiences that made you and shaped you, that allowed you to develop your leadership, your decisions, your beliefs, and your standards. And when you have those things and you can actually see those things and take ownership of, oh, this is why I'm super driven and ambitious. Like, this is why I do business this way. This is why I don't tolerate this. That's how we create embodied conviction. That's how conviction gets developed. And everybody
Yep.
knows, like, you want to sell more, like, you have to be convicted.
Yep.
You can have, um, you don't even have to have like so many coaches, like they don't have sales pages, they just send a link, right? Why? Because they're convicted in what they're doing. It's created from who they are in those stories. And so $1 million story method actually extracts that and allows us to create the business from who you are, not who you think you have to be.
I freaking love that because it's using your own leveraging yourself rather than something outside of you.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
And we all have things that are you make us uniquely you because it's it sounds so corny and cliche, but like you are the only you.
Right, exactly. And to iterate more on that, when you're articulating that in your content, you don't sound like everyone else, right? You stand out
Yep.
because it's your story.
Yep. It's where like I understand it on some levels, but like I have quite a few people that I've worked with that have their coach write their content for them. And I'm like, And they're like, yeah, it's just not really converting. And I always am like, just not bite your tongue, Amanda. Don't be inserting yourself places. But I'm like,
Are you
your coach
serious?
is writing your content. Your coach is wildly successful. I feel like I know everybody in this industry anymore. But like oftentimes I know who's working with who. And so I'm like, okay, so that person is like rewriting or writing your content. And it's like, well, of course, then now you sound like her. And I try really hard to be like, hey, I actually find the way you speak to be so much more interesting. They're like, oh yeah, like my carousels don't convert. And I'm like, well, yeah, because your carousels, I can tell, were not written by you. It's the same thing with AI. Like we can all clock an AI, completely. And I've used AI for certain things. I don't think it's I don't want to demonize it, but if like I always say, like I can tell when you haven't read your AI post out loud. Like
Right. That I was just gonna say, like, I use AI. I love AI, but I make sure I read it out loud and it's exactly how I would actually talk,
yep.
right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, would you say those words in that order? No. Okay, then why the fuck are you posting it? Like it makes no sense to me. But I think that we often it's so easy to outsource our power to other people, especially when you don't have that conviction, that proof of like, oh, here is the collection of stories, here is the who I am, this is the foundation of everything. You don't have something to point back to. It's very easy to slide away from that and just to be like, oh, I have to do it this way, or I need to let my coach write my content, or and it's like, oh, that's what I'm paying her for, and I'm like, oh,
Mm.
I don't think that's a great idea, but you do you, girlfriend.
Oh, we could go down that rabbit hole too.
I feel like it's where, so much of this industry has changed my life for the better. I know it's changed yours for the better, but there is, I think, sometimes a darker side to things where people don't want to talk about maybe the not so good things or, just stuff we've talked about here. And I always have appreciated that you're willing to like honestly look at things and see
Or
stuff for the way it
yeah,
is.
like you have to be, you know.
Um, we are constantly told that building something requires us to do this or that, along with what I'm saying. What do
Mhm.
you think that you've done in your business that you felt like you had to do, and now you would say is a complete lie?
Oh, like
I mean, I'm
my
sure you have probably dozens of examples of this, but like give the
I
people.
mean, I built my first uh, let's say $1 million. Like I hit my first million, probably a little over a million, but I hit my first million running a coaching business that was like not even who I was. It's why I burnt everything down. It's why I built this multiple six-figure business running on cookie cutter strategies, frameworks, having my coach write my content,
Yeah,
right? Because this is the way you talk in order to like get more clients and book more sales. And the whole business was structured like that. And it that again will only take you so far. And then it's like all of a sudden, I'm burning out. My clients aren't aligned. My leadership, your leadership naturally outgrows your business because the business was never created from who you were in the first place.
yep,
And that's why I burned it all down. And that's why I've started over and rebuilding from all these new frameworks, from, the $1 million story and the ownership style of content, and so that I can have a business that feels like home with clients who feel like they're like me, and we're a part of this like beautiful culture, and we have the same values and standards and belief systems. And that's what I'm here for. But the whole first part of my business was, just regurgitated what everybody else was doing.
yeah. If somebody was listening to this podcast and they're like, I feel like I'm in this first half, where you're your first $1 million, what would you tell them in general? What would be your advice? And where in your world would you want them to start?
Like if they felt like they were in a they had outgrown what they where they
Yep,
could.
they're in that phase where you were at when you had made your
Yeah.
$1 million. Like where what would you tell them as just general advice, and where would you tell them to start in your world?
Starts with $1 million story. It starts with, you know taking ownership of who you are and going back and looking at those times, those hard times. I share a lot of really deep stories, with my own childhood, and I continue to share those and excavate those. But that is where you will find where your gifts are,
Mm.
because that's where you start to know what do I teach that's in aligned with who I am and who I'm supposed to teach. And it starts with that framework, because that framework is not only do you create conviction from that, but when you can identify your beliefs and those standards, that's how you start building your movement. That's how your movement gets created. And a lot of people don't see, they're just like, oh, I stand for this. This is my movement. And it's like, no, 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 no. Let's go back to the stories, right? Let's excavate those. Once you have the movement, then you can create the offers, right? And it's this beautiful, like, birthing experience of bringing yourself like online that I'm so incredibly passionate about, that you begin to feel like yourself again. You're connected to who you are and you're connected with yourself. And that's what I would tell them. And all the things up until this point were great learning experiences. And that's why they're going to make you even so much more successful in this next phase and this next journey.
Yep.
Um, so yeah.
I love that. And like, you said earlier, not to be woo, but I'll join you in the woo. I think that as a society, in a lot of ways, I feel like a lot of us feel like we are going through refinding ourselves. I recorded another episode of this podcast earlier today, and her and I afterwards were talking about that there's almost like, midlife crisis. You don't think that happens till your 50s and 60s, but I find that a lot of us who are millennial women, I believe you are also a millennial woman, like who are in our 30s, heading towards our 40s or in our 40s, that like there's this change that's happening where it's like, you had your life, maybe you've built something, but like you didn't birth it yourself. It was almost as if like somebody build-a-beared something inside of you and you pushed that out, and that was who you were in the world.
Mhm.
And I think collectively there are so many people that are like, oh, I actually can create something. I have the power in me to create anything that I want if I actually take the time to like sit with that and like, what do you want? That has always been a question I've struggled with. I'm very good at like producing things for other people, but like one of Jordan's favorite questions to ask me is like, what do you want? What do you want, Emma? And I'm like, I don't know. And it's been a process of like learning what is it that I want, what is it that I want to create, not just what does other people expect of me, but I think it's like a collective experience we're having too of like there is this something, this power within us that we can create what we want, and there are leaders and teachers and coaches like you that can come alongside if that is something that somebody desires.
Yeah.
So there's so much support that exists. Um, just use your critical thinking skills
Yes,
when hiring people.
just critical thinking.
Okay, so I have a little bit of a rapid round. There's 26 questions. I pull 12 of them for every episode, and they are just, you can answer this however you want. Your answer doesn't have to be quick. They're just random questions about all sorts of things. Are you ready?
Yes, I love this. I do this on my podcast too. I'm like, oh, I actually get to answer the
I know. Whenever I've done podcasts or some of my favorite podcasts to listen to, that's where I pulled the questions from, because I always love them because it's just a really fun little peek into who people are.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite snack?
Oh, probably peaches.
Oh,
It's
you live in the South, girl. You got good peaches down there too.
it's peach season, and like I love a good fruit. Like I snack
Mm.
on a lot of fruit. So like berries, peaches. I'm like always grabbing fruit.
My favorite, I don't know if you've ever had this, is it's just the peach, not the peach raspberry, the peach hint water.
No.
I have my home Meyer stocks it enough because I think I'm the only person that buys it, and they're just constantly putting out cases because I just go in and clear them
I
out.
like psychic there or something.
I don't like
Peaches.
peaches. Okay. Are you a window or an aisle seat girly?
Window.
Same Z's. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh.
Or just a big pet peeve?
Mm, probably, probably like, oh, God, that's a hard question. Um,
The answers to this one have been some of my favorites because they're so random.
my biggest pet peeve. Oh, here's a good one. My biggest pet peeve is like when my husband doesn't put the garbage bag like back in the garbage can.
It's just empty.
He just like takes it out, right? And then like doesn't put the bag back in. And I'm always like grabbing the bag and putting it back in.
Oh yeah, the amount of times I've opened our like little trash drawer and chucked something gross in our like trash can that has no trash bag in it. It's like so frustrating. What's a song you're currently obsessed with?
Oh my God. That one, the sunshine one. Hold on, I'll tell you. Moving to the Sun.
Oh, okay.
Trending on Instagram right now. Moving to the Sun. It's like really upbeat. I love that song right now.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find that on Instagram and maybe make a reel with your content to it.
Yeah, it's trending. It's a good one.
Okay, if I told you that I'm gonna buy you one absolutely ridiculous thing with no budget, there's no cost limit to this. What am I buying you?
There's no cost.
No budget. Well, somebody said a mansion, so like literally, whatever. The world is your oyster. What am I buying you?
Private jet.
That is the most you answer ever.
My private jet. So I can take my dog with us everywhere we travel.
That is a great answer. And maybe you can come pick me up and we can go somewhere fun
Yes.
together.
Yes.
One of these days, you and I are gonna go somewhere cool.
Yeah.
What is the worst advice that you've ever been given that you want to save the rest of us from?
Mm. My brain immediately went to messaging templates. I'm so anti messaging templates. I'm so anti messaging templates. So it would be like, if anyone is offering messaging templates,
Run.
run,
Run fast, girl. Run
run.
fast. Give a shout out to one or two people that you're totally obsessed with right now. This could be your clients, family, coaches you've worked with, anybody. Who are two people?
I would say Jessica Parr,
Good one. Love
powerhouse,
her.
such a powerhouse, obsessed. Another person I want to give a shout out to, I'm always an Amanda Francis fan. Like, you know what?
Girl.
I just love her. She's like the OG of the industry. And I'll tell you, she just handled herself so well on The Real Housewives. I don't even watch the show, and I had to watch the show because I was so curious. And she was just so good. And I just loved her responses. And then there's one more person.
Give it to me.
It's a collective. The
Okay.
women who are making really big sacrifices right now for something bigger and something better. And there's a lot of women right now that are making, including myself, there's a collective that are, you know, making really big sacrifices with their family, with their business, because they know there's something better. And yeah.
Yep. Yep. I I second that one. I'll also add that Amanda Francis is I refer to her as my gateway drug. I would not even know the coaching industry existed, except that my name is in fact legally Amanda Francis Swiger. And so I had a friend who was so like, who knew that was my middle name? And she was like, do you know there's a girl who wrote a book called Rich as Fuck whose name is the same as yours? And I read that book, and then it just snowballed. Read about other
Yeah.
people, and so she is I literally have, you can't see it, but it's on the other side of my screen, is a wall that has people I want to shoot at, and she's giant. I have a giant post note that says Amanda fucking Francis, because I just want to look at her one day and be like, we have the same name, and you
Oh
are the
my
why I
God.
built this version of my career. So one day I'm manifesting that. I love though that you wanted to shout her out. She's
Yeah.
phenomenal. Okay. If you were to walk out on a stage in front of thousands of people, what would your walkout song be?
Ooh. Probably like probably one of like the indie songs that I'm really loving right now on
Ooh.
Spotify. There's one called I Call It Life. It's a song that I'm really obsessed with right now, by Vichilva. His name is like Vichilva. Like there's a lot of really great artists on Spotify that do these like deeper, darker, like powerful, um, like I don't know if you know the artist, the Empirics.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's like that kind of vibe.
I
It would be
totally
one of
see
those,
that for you.
yeah, it would be one of those like dark but like really powerful. It would be like that.
I love that. What is your favorite part of your brand?
Probably the fact that I help people really see themselves.
That's
And
that's mine too. This is why I love you. Yeah.
like
Yep.
I truly it's yes, the money is important, but it really is when someone can really see who they are and you know, that's more power than any money can ever give somebody.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love that we have the same answer. What is something you got in trouble for as a kid that you swear is why you're successful now?
Oh, um, I got in trouble for like marching to the beat of my own drum. I moved to Chicago when I was like 21 years old with $600 to my name, and my parents were so mad at me. And I got in trouble for that. I mean, they really shunned me, like oust, like we're not paying for your college anymore, like, you know, I kind of got in trouble a lot for just wanting to be myself.
Yep.
And but yeah, that would be my answer. I mean, I
I
got
love
in
that.
trouble a lot for like being sassy, but it wasn't, I mean, I was really like a good girl growing up. And then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, enough. Like this is what I want to do, you know?
I love that. I love that. What is one thing that you're working at becoming better at right now? Life, business, doesn't matter.
Articulation.
Mm, I like that.
Articulation. I've always struggled with articulating my thoughts into words. I've always struggled with writing, and because I have so many thoughts and I'm so deep and, you know, really being able to articulate that in my brand that feels like me, like that's what I am constantly working on in my craft.
I love that. Yeah, it's always something to I feel like it's a lost that's another lost art. We have, is that people don't really try to hone in how they articulate their thoughts as much as maybe they did in past generations.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. The very intro to this podcast says your power is begging you to play. So I want to know, where is your power, Brianna, begging you to play right now?
Ooh. I would say just showing up in my star power, like more and more and more and more, and like finding that inner confidence. Like she's slowly coming out. She's like slowly coming out, but you know, it's been a journey, and I think that like my bad girl side is like ready to come out and play.
I think she is too.
Yeah. I'm like, she's been hiding way too long. So.
Yeah. Maybe, who knows? Maybe your next content shoot will be you with I don't know, like a leather whip or something. We'll get
Oh
crazy.
yeah, like
I can
don't
see
doubt it.
that. I can see that. I feel like it's like the good girl is dead and buried.
Yeah, she's done.
She's done. She's got black walls behind her now in her office. She's officially, yeah. I love that. And I am just so grateful that you took the time to hang out with me for us to talk about all the things. I'm going to be linking your Instagram and in the show notes. But is there anything else you want to tell the people about anything that you have coming up? I know you have something that you are launching that's a 3-day thing. So do you want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
Yes, I have a 3-day live event starting on July 13th called Own It. And if you're wanting to own your own stories, your convictions, so that you can attract more high ticket clients and become the obvious choice, come join me. It's going to be so much fun. It's 3 days and live in Zoom, but there's going to be a Telegram. There's some surprise things, and we're going to really, I'm going to show you how to take your stories and your leadership and beliefs and show you how to actually articulate that in your content so that you can attract more premium clients.
Love, 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 love. All right, y'all. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Please go follow Brianna, hire her, go join Own It, be inspired by her, and check out all the magic from her shoots with me. We have done 2 of them. They're going to be over on my Instagram. And as always, don't be afraid to be a lot. And I will see everybody next time. And thank you again, Brianna.
Thank you.
Begging you to play. Begging you to play.